then you have time.
It's over. I hope people are sleeping.
Because we could announce the raffle as late as we want.
Yeah, now the time to be a partner with Hidabroot.
877 Hidabroot, 877-443-2276, HidabrootRaffle.org. The first thing I think they should go and put in their credit card, and then they could choose what prizes they want, right?
Yeah. We want it in. The prize up to tomorrow. Let them choose the prizes tomorrow.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
9.
And the 877 Hidabroot, 877-443.
Can I tell you the story about on my trip to Tibet?
Just 877 Hidabroot. I'm doing this for 5 hours. Please, now. 877 Hidabroot.
That's it.
I think Rabbi Blyer is saying that it's closing.
It looks like it's closing.
It looks like it's closing.
10-second countdown.
Yeah,
I think it'd be appropriate for a 10-second
Don't
countdown.
drop the ball, folks.
Ready?
And by the way, do you know what the view of this?
It's gorgeous.
Did you see this view? When I'm gonna every time I have
the dining room. How about the dining room? I would love that.
Don't forget to
it's all about the dining room.
Hidabroot Radio 97.5 FM.
Yeah, this is the view that you want to. If you call right now 877 Hidabroot and you win, this could be the view.
And if you don't call, this is the view. It's a choice.
877 Hidabroot. This is, by the way, the most talked about cover of a magazine in Brooklyn.
I love
By
it.
the way, speaking
Pro and con, but it's great.
I love it. This is what we're doing.
we want to thank Ron and
all about.
Nisim and all the staff of Hidabroot, everybody behind the scenes. Thank you.
Okay,
It's
it's
a
12
wonderful job, really.
Is it closed or they
It's
give you another minute?
12:20, and now it's. I think it's closed.
If you try. If you're a real professor, 877 Hidabroot.
We'll do the 10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And you can still try, but the chances, 8-7, the guy's going to try. If you get through, go for it.
This isn't
But
eBay. It's it.
Now, in a few minutes, they do have to get together all the raffle tickets and make it fair. We'll let you know a little bit.
We want it to be clear, so it's going to be a live drawing very soon.
Very soon, we're going to get the raffle tickets together. We're going to do it live.
Yeah.
I won't be here. I'll be sleeping, but you'll be here.
Won't be that late. Listen.
Very soon.
Very soon. Within a few minutes.
I know we have these two, I feel bad that like this final countdown ended up, we have these two chashuv guests sitting here. And so maybe, in general, there's an overview. At this point, we're not pushing for them to buy a Hidabroot raffle.
I'm sweating. I feel like I
I
ran a
can
marathon.
finally eat the sushi.
Right, bring out the sushi.
So tell us some, you said that story, and I understand what you're trying to bring out, that the Shabbos, how that Shabbos made an impact. Maybe I'm sure you have another one. We won't cut you off this time.
No, I just not to tell another story, but I just think the messages that I think most people appreciate is that when it comes to sharing what we have with other people, we don't have to become experts in anything. It's just that we have something that we love. And when you share something that you love sincerely, it resonates. And what I got from that story was I wasn't sitting around talking theology with him at night. I wasn't sitting around, even when he said that thing, I was like hesitating to invite him over. Even though we were close friends and I knew that it would be great. And what it really came down to was I happen to love this. And anyone who's gone through the experience knows that Shabbos is the best thing in the world. And to be able to share it with another human being, another Jew, is the way in which we bring them, we give them the opportunity to see how gorgeous our lives are, how gorgeous the Torah is. It's not sitting around and talking about Tzaddik V'Ralo. It's not sitting around and speaking about theology. It's really taking what we have and just sharing it. And for you if you're out there watching and you're saying, I also want to be involved. I want to be involved financially. I want to also be involved myself in my person. But I'm not a rabbi. I'm not a rabbi. If you're saying, well, I'm not, I'm just a regular person. So am I. I'm a regular guy. And all you really need to do this is just the ability to share what you love. And that's really what I think we need to do as a people, what Hidabroot is doing. They're out there saying, share it in the way you know how to share it. And it's making a profound impact in ways we can't believe. And the value and the positive attributes of media today is that it reaches a ton of people. And when we're pushing for things and when you're sharing things, whether it's through this medium or just seeing people on the street or your friends or your family, you keep on sort of spreading the fire, spreading the flame, which I believe that's what we're here for. I think that Hashem has us here to be an Or LaGoyim, to be an Or LaYehudim, to be ultimately people that just light ourselves up and then just go to the next wick and just light up that one flame. And if we live this way, and we support the organizations that are doing these things, we should be zocha, I hope, to see a time soon in our days where we all have penthouses in Yerushalayim, where we all sit around with the views that this penthouse has. Hopefully you got in before the it closed.
You could try,
maybe they can let you in. I don't know.
877,
If you are, let us know. And but ultimately get to a place where we're all sharing this wisdom and the beautiful thing that we have with everybody in Yerushalayim Kodesh from here, Remain alone.
Amen.
And Rabbi, so any closing thoughts? I mean, we're coming towards the end. I know Rabbi Erbs is still waiting because he's going to get us to the raffle. Rabbi.
A lot of pent-up emotions, I would say, expressed by everybody. You know, there was a family who I was in touch with some time ago, and I was very reluctant to put forth any mandates to them. Do this, don't do that. But they would call me from time to time. I had spoken out in their community. And one day, one of the family members was telling me how their daughter had become more observant. But they said that they themselves had not taken the steps to start keeping Shabbos. And I don't know, what came over me. It's like we all have these moments, these flashes of light, of inspiration, which you have to seize. And I just spoke to her from the heart. Politicians say be sincere whether you mean it or not. Well, I was sincere, and I did mean it. And I simply told the person, imagine what it would mean to your child if they saw that not only that you acknowledged and appreciated what she was doing in terms of becoming more observant, but what about if you were to just take that step? I mean, really just think about maybe not getting into your car on Shabbos. I said, I'm not a prophet or a son of a prophet, but I can only tell you that anybody who ever started keeping Shabbos, even if it might be difficult in the beginning, the rewards are guaranteed, not by me, but by Kadosh Baruch Hu. I said, maybe you want to think about it. Imagine what it would mean to your daughter that she would say, wow, Mommy, how much I love you, how much I admire you that you started doing this. I heard this long, pregnant pause at the end, and she said, I'll think about it. About a month later, I got a call. She said, I want to tell you, that was the most important thing anybody ever told me, and I took that step. And my husband and I have started keeping Shabbos. It wasn't easy, but we don't get into the car anymore, and we stopped doing it, and my daughter did just what you said she did. She said, Mommy, I appreciate so much what you did. You don't know. A word in the right direction can make all the difference in the world. And all you have to do, as Charlie said and everybody else has said, is be sincere. We're not here to make people frum. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink, but you can try and make him thirsty. And the way we do that is by being examples, as you just said, a light to the nations, by showing the simple, the sweetness of Yiddishkeit. People see, as Charlie said, you've been on college campuses, you know what it's like. I mean, I was teaching broadcast journalism on a campus, and I asked, what's the biggest problem on campus? That nobody's getting involved. I said, is it ignorance or apathy? One kid raises his hand and says, I don't know and I don't care. But the point is, if you show that you do care,
Absolutely.
and you have some knowledge to share, that's something that you can pass on because enthusiasm is infectious. Wouldn't you agree, Charlie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's when you have something of value, people immediately say, why do you find that valuable? We're sometimes stuck in a world where we have so much, it's hitting us so quickly, everything, that we're constantly just trying to hold on to all the images and everything that's going on every day. And if we can just stop and say, wait, this is valuable and I love it, there's an intangible, someone says, why? That's it. That's it, I think, in a real way. It's just sharing something that you love. It's just sharing value. And everyone's looking for that. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it's sincerity. That's all you need. Sincerity and a lot of siyata d'shmaya, and Hashem takes it wherever he wants to take it. That's the goal. We're doing it for him. We work for God.
What's the goal line? Goal al Hashem dakecha
Right.
b'takal avihusa. He'll do.
Yep. Wow. I can't believe, unbelievable. I can't believe I got to sit between
it's my
these
schus.
two chashuva people.
Am I supposed to
Actually-
sit next to you during the countdown? I was so nervous. Thank God we made it to 0.
So again, we're talking about, all three of us do programs on Radio Hidabroot. So you're on
12 to 1 on Tuesdays. Maybe I'll follow Charlie. I don't know. I think it'll be a tough act to follow, but we'll see.
And you're on Thursday from 6
Thursdays
to
from
7.
6 to 7.
Sunday.
And I'm on Thursday from 9 to 10:30.
Wow.
Okay, it should be with us.
Yeah, that's it, so we'll do
Go
great.
Thursdays.
That's it, that's it. You want to join Thursday?
I'm on the Thursday team, I'm telling you, it's Erev
No, he
Shabbos.
can, listen, he's a professional, he can do every day.
Tune into a higher frequency, the station that listens to you, Hidabroot. 97.5
97.5,
and
I like
on the
that.
web.
Or the what is it, the preferred station for the Jewish home.
Love it.
Somebody asked me, why is it called the preferred station for the Jewish home? It should be for the Jewish people. I said, because we're bringing it into your home, and that's what it's all about. Bring it into your home, bring Jewish kosher programming into your home. And it's something, it's amazing that Brooklyn, the city, the Jewish population is, that we've never had this till now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Full 24-hour Jewish programming, it's
A
unbelievable.
shot that's heard around the world. You got to be a student of American history to get that. Shot was heard around the world, as opposed to the shot.
Right.
was around.
Shot, I hear.
That's why
It's also got to be during business hours.
Yeah, 12:30 in the morning,
Post
when we just
12:30.
had a countdown and the excitement is like,
Right.
anyway, thank you very much, and it's been a
Thank you for the
pleasure.
time
And,
and,
I'm looking forward to
being here.
next week, Thursday. Charles starts his show.
Mr. Shem, next week, Thursday,
And by
6
the way,
o'clock.
and Rabbi Erbs is on the Wednesday schedule. Rabbi Yitzhak is at 7 o'clock, and he's going to be actually coming and trying to keep you up until you hear your name.
All right, remember in the words of Hillel, the rest is commentary, you know? Go and learn.
Very good. He's always very good.
professional.
He is very good. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I always hear the voices. Now we get to meet them in person. Very good. Thank you. And Rabbi Erbs, the man of many voices. He's still up? He's still up?
I am still up. Oh,
You're
boy,
still
am I
up.
still up.
So I'm gonna, can I leave you again on the set because the raffle's over? Now we're just keeping the people up.
Oh, keeping the people up?
You might.
I mean, I have a very interesting story to tell you.
There you go. So
When Peretz B. Eichler was up here, and he was talking about how he took karate when he was, not from, or whatever
Right,
it was,
right.
and how certain incidents took place. I have here a story, if you want, I could tell it, of
There you
how
go.
in the days, you know that I do martial arts.
That's right. I remember that. You're an artist too. But just remember, well, they did the countdown. But if they come in with the winner, they might. At this time of night, you might get cut.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever. But here, listen. This is. No, you could go. You could go. I'm just
Yeah?
going.
Okay, no problem.
This is a story for you to keep you up, Rabbi Yitzi Erbs.
This here is a very, very true story. There was a time, believe it or not, that I weighed 133 pounds for 6 years in a row, ate 2 suppers a night, and I was a black belt in karate. I still practice martial arts. I don't know if you can get a close-up of my knuckles, it's only giveaway. But basically, or if you know me from the camp seasons or hotel seasons, whatever it is, then you would see my demonstration where I break bricks and everything like that. I still practice at my age. My doctor says I should act my age sometimes, but I say I can't look in a mirror, because if you look in a mirror, then you realize how old you are. But when Peretz B. Eichler was here, and he was telling over the story of the karate, it reminded me of something very amazing. In the years before I was married, and I was very gur mamish into karate, like unbelievable into it, and I lived and I breathed karate, so much so that I still remember my father, Oliver Sholem, used to see me practicing karate in the basement, and he used to come over to me, I'll say it in the Yiddish the way he said, and then I'll translate it in English. He used to say to me, he said, halavai sollst du kennen a toisvis, also wie du kennst the karate, wirst du sein all right. Which means, halavai, you should be able to know the toisvis, the way you know the karate, you'll be all right. And I answered my father, I said, halavai wollte ich gehat a Rebbe, also wie man karate instructor, will sein all right. Which means basically, if I had a Rebbe that had the same motivation that my karate instructor had, then I would be all right. I had such a karate instructor, and you see, Peretz was mentioning he had a very tough karate instructor. Tough is not the word for my instructor, but he was amazingly tough. This karate instructor, he weighed probably close to 300 pounds, over 5'11", and you'll be amazed how he moved around at his size. And I weighed 133 pounds. He got me convinced, because he took me as a 133-pound person, and he got me to flip him. That means you're lifting a person over 300 pounds, lifting him off the ground, and flipping him. And, of course, probably if he wanted to resist me, he probably could. But that's irrelevant. The point is, for a 133-pound guy to be able to uplift a person that weighs at least 300 pounds, that's an amazing feat to accomplish. And, of course, he explained to me, he said, Yitzchak, this is all. He was like a frum guy who wasn't religious, unfortunately. But he said, Yitzchak, you understand, this is not the strength itself. It's technique. Technique is what does it. So he made me a believer right there and then. And so since I saw what a little guy could do, I became so gur into karate. Now, at that same time, I was also becoming a famous storyteller, that I was a famous storyteller in the days of Pirchei and everything like that. And there was an organization called JEP. It still exists nowadays, Jewish Educational Program. And they used to be Makarev. They used to have like a release hour in the public school. And what they did was an amazing thing. They used to take some of the children, they used to get special permission. They used to have a program where they took the Jewish people, the Jewish students, and they had this release hour, and they would get together with them, make them feel something about Yiddishkeit, do some sort of a party that would indicate something with Judaism, and then maybe speak something about Judaism. And they used to ask me to help out in JEP. I was never the kind of person, you see, it takes a very special kind of person to walk over to somebody and say,
Excuse me, sir, did you put on tefillin today? I mean, if you didn't, I would like to help you. It's a great mitzvah.
it's not such an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? Imagine, you walk over to a guy, and he's like 375 pounds, and you walk over to him and says, excuse me, sir, did you ever put on tefillin? Are you Jewish? And this 360-pound guy looks at you, 375 and says, are you talking to me? Are you telling me? Are you asking me to put on tefillin, those phylacteries, those little boxes over there? I mean, obviously, it could be a harrowing experience for some people. So it really takes a special talent, a special type of person to be able to walk over to a guy and say, hey, did you put on tefillin today? Would you like to keep Shabbos? Would you like to experience the Shabbos? So I can never do that. The only thing I used to do for JEP was the following. I went over and I used to tell a story. That was my thing. I used to tell a story to the public school children that were released for that hour. I used to tell them a story, and I brought out a lesson that was easy for them to understand on their level. Now, mind you, you can't just tell a kid, keep Shabbos when they don't keep Shabbos. So the lesson must have been a simple type of lesson like, be nice to others, don't punch a guy in the nose, or don't steal, or talk with the emes, and so on and so forth. These are the type of lessons in the stories I used to tell them. And then it happened one summer. In those days, there was a camp called Camp Torah doesn't exist anymore, but the yeshiva does, but the camp doesn't. And it's now Camp Stolen, as far as I know. And now what happened is the JEP people came over to me and he said, now at that time I wasn't known as Rabbi Yitzi Herbst, I was just playing Yitzi, and he used to say, Yitzi, we got something that you could do. And I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You go to Camp Torah, right? And I said, yeah, so? And he said, well, listen, have I got a story to tell you? It's unbelievable, unbelievable. There's this kid that we have, and his name is, are you get ready? His name is, well, his Hebrew name was Moshe, okay? And his English name was Paul. I'm not going to tell you his last name, because he might be listening to this program in Eretz Yisrael, for as far as I know now. But anyways, let me tell you. So his English name was Paul, and his Hebrew name was Moshe. And he told me, listen, Yitz, we got this guy. I'm telling you, this guy is unbelievable. He has a taste of Yiddishkeit. He wants to be more from. He wants to, do it. And you could help him. And I said, really? Come on. I don't walk over to the guy and says, you want to keep Shabbos, you want to do this? I don't do this thing. I just do the story. That's my thing. The story. That's what I do. So he says to me, you don't understand. This kid is into karate. I said, what? He's into karate? Really? And he said, yeah. And Yitz, you're a black belt. You're into karate. You could do this stuff. Hey, imagine you work out with him, and then you can have influence him. You can be Makar of him. Now, I started thinking to myself, he knows karate. Very interesting. So, to be honest, I said, for selfish reasons, I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I didn't do it because of the reason that I thought I was going to be Makar of the kid. No way, no how. I did it because I thought I was going to have a karate chavrusa. That's what I thought. I was going to have a karate partner. And that's the reason why I did it. So, when it came to camp, now, you have to understand, I grew up in a time period when, lahavdil to say, there was the famous karate martial artist, Bruce Lee, and after his Bruce Lee movies came out, all of a sudden there were karate dojos all over the place opening up. And my karate instructor would particularly call some of them, he would call them ballet schools, because they were interested in making money, and even if your technique was not good, they said, very good, you're doing very, very good, keep up good work, yes, good stuff you're doing, keep up, yes, good. And there were all different kinds of schools that were popping up all over the place, and they were giving people belts all over the place. Now, this particular kid, obviously, he went to such a school. He learned the karate, he had the ballet stuff, he had the movements and everything, but he wasn't into the real stuff. My karate instructor believed in what they call the spirit of karate. You have to learn to hit, you have to learn to take, and you have to really hit, and you have to really learn to take. You have to build your body to be able to give and to take. And he used to train us to break bricks. He used to train us to do all kinds of crazy things. And it was really real karate. And what happened was so I see this kid and I look at him and I said, your belt rank, according to what you described, is higher than mine. You're also pretty tall for your age. You're just as tall as me, or maybe taller. Let's start off by testing each other. I said, how about if, I give you a punch and you take the punch, okay? And then you give me a punch and I'll take the punch. And he says to me, whoa, take it easy. Whoa, man, cool, but, you're older than me, you know what I mean? And I said, well, you're just as big as me or bigger, and you probably weigh more than me, so, you're in shape, right? Aren't you? Yeah, man, yeah, kind of, And I have to tell you one more thing. In those days, it was pretty popular to have those Afro haircuts, and he had an Afro haircut. And I would say, yeah, but you should be able to take a punch. Oh, yeah, but you're really older than me. So he was so worried about this age business. So I said to myself, you know what? I got a great idea. How about if I punch you from about 1 inch away? And then if you could take that, I'll go 2 inches away, and so on. So he says, oh, okay, now that's not so bad, because you can't put so much power in a 1-inch punch. Now, of course, he didn't know anything about the Goju system of karate, and he didn't know about pulsating energy and things of that nature. So he went and he put himself in a stance. He made his muscles hard and everything. And then, boom, I gave him this 1-inch punch, and he went flying, and he goes... ballet dancer. He knows the basic moves, but he can't give with power, and he certainly cannot receive. But then I said to myself, who else do I have around camp that knows even as much as he does? So I said, you know what? I'll keep him for my karate chavrusa. And then, at that time, because the way my job was, I didn't have time to learn with him, except that, like in most camps, they have this thing on Shabbos. After the davening, they have a kiddush, and then there's an hour before the actual Sudas, the Suda Sheni. And the reason I have that, so this way the waiters have a chance to eat. So during that hour, I said, I'll learn with you. And I went over and I took this kid, and I said, now let's see, what can I learn with him? I'm not going to teach him Aleph Beis. No. I'm not going to teach him Gemara or anything like that. I'm not going to teach him Halacha. I got a great idea. I said, I remember when I was a camper in Camp Aguda, I had a learning Rebbe that every Shabbos he taught the Ani Mamims. And he didn't just translate Ani Mamim B'Emunah Shlema. He went into the deep meanings behind it. And I did the same thing every Shabbos before lunch, during that hour. I would go over these Ani Mamims with him, and I would, try as best as possible to make it as simplified and, to make sense to him. But each time I said to him, listen to me, Moshe, and he would say, my name is Paul. And I said, okay, Moshe, listen to me carefully. I'm not going to be like one of those people that if you're going to ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm going to say that's a stupid question or that you call a question. I'm not going to be like that. Instead, I said to him the following. I said, Moshe, listen to me. And he keeps saying, Paul, Paul, Paul. And I said, Moshe, 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 listen to me. What I want you to do is, if you have any question, don't be afraid to ask. Because if I don't know it, I'll tell you I don't know it, and I'll try to find you an answer. The first week of camp goes by, nothing. The second week, the seventh week. Finally, the last week of camp goes by. And he looks at me and says, you know, I have a question for you. Yeah, what is it? You know, I thought that if I give up, if what are you trying to say? Well, I thought, man, if I become religious, then I have to give up all the stuff I do. But I look at you and I see that you're an artist and you play drums and you do your karate, and man, you do your karate. You're so much better than my instructor and everything. You do so many things, and you're religious, and you learn, you have a Torah life and everything. And I thought that I would have to give up everything that I do that I like, the karate, the wrestling that I like, and everything like this. I thought I have to give it all up if I become religious, but you showed me that I don't have to. Now that, to me, was a very important yesod, a very important foundation to understand and to share with other people. Because if you think about it, many people don't want to become religious because they think if they become religious, that means they can't do some of the other things. Now, it's true there's certain things that you cannot do because it's not morally correct or something of that nature. But it doesn't mean you have to give up living. You just live with a different value. We call it Kedusha. We live a life of holiness. And that's the basic difference. So I said to him, well, obviously, so now you see that you don't have to give up everything, and you can even be pretty good at what you do. So you still have a hesitation. And he looks at me and he says, yeah, I do. Now, at that time period, it was in the 70s, at that time period, unfortunately, I hate to share it. I'm not going to hint who the person is or whatever it was, but I must say what the situation is, and you'll see, because sometimes people do acts, and they don't realize what the influence of these actions that they do. There was a certain rabbi who the whole world looked at him as a very religious person, and he was, and he had a nursing home. But he had this thing. Unfortunately, he had a Yetzer Hara to like money. And unfortunately, if a person died in his nursing home and no relatives came to visit or claim the body so soon, he used to take the body, put it downstairs in the morgue and keep it frozen there. And while he kept it frozen there, he would be able to still collect money on this person as though he was alive. So he was cheating and stealing from the government. And at the same time, he had an extra bed to bring in another patient. And this is what he did. And one time, a disgruntled worker blew the whistle. And he was arrested. And it was such a chillul Hashem that this person used to walk around with this big, gigantic yarmulke on his head. And it was such a big chillul Hashem because one of the newspapers took his picture, blew it up so big on the front page that they put his yarmulke so much in front that the name of the newspaper was behind his yarmulke because they wanted to show off. But there was such a big chillul Hashem, unfortunately. So this kid knew about this incident. And this kid, Paul or Moshe, he looks at me and he says, I wonder, why can't I just keep Judaism? You know what I mean? Why can't I know about it, but not really keep the Shabbos? I'll know about Shabbos, I'll keep it in my mind, but I'll do all the other stuff I do. Why can't I do that? So I said to myself, wow, this is a tough question. Why are you asking me? And he said, well, look at that man. He was a rabbi. He should have known better, right? And look what he did. So I started thinking to myself, I'm a storyteller. Give me some sort of a mashal. Put some thought in my head that I should be able to answer him. And Hashem put the following thought in my head. An amazing thought. I went over and I said, Paul. I started to call him Paul because I wanted his attention. I said, Paul, let me ask you a question. If you had ice cream every single day, would it be a special treat to you? And he says, oh, I guess not. And I said, now, Paul, let me ask you a question. If you never had ice cream and suddenly somebody brings you ice cream, would it be like a special treat to you? And he says, yeah, I guess so. So I said, don't you understand That rabbi was an FFB. He was from birth. He didn't realize what a treasure he had. He had the ice cream every day. He didn't realize what he had. You coming from out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you're going to taste this ice cream. You're going to taste Torah. It's going to have such a taste to you, even greater than his. And that's one of the reasons why the Gemara in Brachas tells us that the place where Balei Tshuva stands, Tzaddikim Gemurim don't stand. You know, the place where Balei Tshuva stand, complete Tzaddikim don't even stand because they don't go through the same tests. You could reach a higher madrega, you could reach a higher level. And he looks at me, and I still remember it to Ad Hayoim. He looks at me and he says to me, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense. And he agreed to go to yeshiva right after the summer. He went to Yeshiva Torah Das, which was one of the places that hosted a lot of Jep things. So he was like one of the only kids in Yeshiva Torah Das that had an afro haircut. The following year he came to camp again, and he still had the afro haircut, but he wore a yarmulke on top of it, knitted yarmulke. And I still try to call him Moshe, and he kept saying his name was Paul. And then after that second summer, I never saw him again. Never saw him again for a few years. I was not aware that he was going all the way, step by step, becoming more and more religious. I was not aware that he took off the afro haircut. I was not aware that he grew payas behind his ear. I was not aware that he was wearing an up-brim hat. I was not aware that he was wearing a double-breasted jacket. And then he was learning in Camp Or Shraga. And that's why he wasn't coming back to Camp Torah Das. And then one of the years that I was doing night activities, I was preparing for a play that day, and a bunch of guys from Or Shraga come by to visit, and they say, hey, Yitz, how you doing? And all of a sudden, this one guy, which was this guy Moshe, which used to be called Paul, he comes over and he says, Yitz, how you doing? How you doing? And I'm looking at him, and I said, there's something familiar about him, but there's something that was missing. You know, like, I hear the voice, I recognize it, but, you know, like something was missing. And then I realized what was missing. He didn't have the afro anymore. He had payas behind his ear, double-breasted jacket, up-brim hair. He looked like a typical Frum Yid, a religious Jew. That's what he looked like. And I went over and I said to him, suddenly when it hit me, I said, Paul, is that you? And he waves his finger in front of me like, not Paul, Moshe. His name is Moshe now. And I want you to know, a few years later, people came around by a chasna that I was at, and they were collecting for Achnasa Skala, and one of the guys looks at me and says, oh, Yitz, you know who we're collecting for? Remember Paul? You know, Moshe? And I said, yeah. Well, that's who we're collecting for. He's getting married. He's learning in Eretz Yisrael. He's getting married. Now, I want you to know there's somebody that I know from Camp Dura Golding, Rabbi Mati Finkelman, and he goes many times to Eretz Yisrael, and he sees this person. And he told me that this person is not only from, he's a Rebbe, he learns in Koilel, he has a long beard and payas, and he wears a shtramel, he has a large family, Kanai he's a Zayda already. And it's very interesting, even though he learned from me that you don't really have to give up the things that just become from. But this guy tasted Yiddishkeit step by step, slowly but surely, and now it's interesting to note, he doesn't practice one stitch of karate at all. Not even a tiny drop. But one thing is, he is from. And what I learned from that is, a very interesting lesson, is that you never know what a Kadosh Baruch Hu gives you as a gift and why. And it's an amazing thing that I still practice karate today. And one of the main reasons why I practice it, again, is because I saw what it can do. I saw how it can help people. This person amazingly became from because he thought he has to give up everything. And then he saw me. And the part of the Basher Tamaisa, part of the Hashgacha was that I mamish had a very good instructor who taught me karate like really to know it and not like a ballet dancer. And as a result of that, what ended up happening is I was able to help this person in a way that I never thought I would be able to. And this kid is now from. So what I want to share with all you people out there is to be makar of somebody is sometimes very difficult, but you never know But I found that the most important thing, and what I heard from people talking tonight was, while I was waiting on the sidelines to fill in wherever they needed me, that's because Radio Hidabroot and the whole organization Hidabroot does very wonderful things. So I was here on the sidelines, whenever they needed some fill-in, I'm here to help, whatever. And I just want you to know that one of the things that I learned, and I would like to share with everybody, is that one of the secrets of being Mekara somebody, believe it or not, is not going over to say to a person and say, listen, maybe you would like to try Shabbos today, or maybe you'd like to do this today, or maybe you'd like to do that. No, I have a friend of mine who, I don't want to mention his name or anything like that because I don't know if he wants me to mention it without it, but it's very interesting what he did. He became from 11 years before his brother. And all he did was, he said to his brother, come and spend the Shabbos by me. No, I don't want to keep Shabbos. I ain't going to keep Shabbos. I ain't going to keep it. Just come and spend Shabbos. You don't have to do anything. Just spend Shabbos. Yeah, but I want to turn on a light. If you want to turn on a light, turn on a light. I'm not going to ask you to do anything. I just want you to watch Shabbos. So for 11 years, his brother came to him every Shabbos that was possible. And he watched how his family was growing. And he watched how there was something special about Shabbos, how people, by Shabbos, a family is always together. And then the singers Zemiros, and the joy of when the father would ask the son or the daughter, ask him some questions about the parasha, and they would give these answers, and they would have such joy, and it was so peaceful. After 11 years, he suddenly decided he wants to become frum. Now, if you would look at this guy, you would never know that he was ever a friar person. You would never know he was not religious. He looks just like you and I, complete frum. He has beard and payas and everything that works. You name it. So what I want to say is, you never know how you can become Kara. But one thing I want to share with you, and I think that Peretz B. Eichler was pointing that out in what he was saying. You have to be a mentor. That's what you have to be. If people are going to watch you and see that you act like a Yid, that you make a constant Kiddush Hashem every single day, then what will happen is you can have influence on other people. That they'll say, wow, that's a Yid? I want to be like that. They see sometimes a Yid not acting like that way. They'll see, wait a minute. You know, there are Jews, and then there are Jews. And it'll open their eyes to see things more clearly, hopefully. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Erbs.
Yes.
And I just want to give you an update what's going to be with the raffle. They are putting in all the tickets into the pot. That being actually, all the names are being emailed to Israel. The drawing will be taking place live from Israel in just a few minutes. So stay tuned. But before that, we do have some more inspirational words by Rabbi Peretz B. Eichler. And so
I appreciate the
Share
smicha. The only other person that gave me smicha was the post office in Lakewood, but I do thank you.
in Lakewood,
for that.
everybody's a rabbi.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Thank you.
So if
Towards the camera, please.
in
I
a
will
few
try to do
minutes,
that.
in a few minutes, we're going to announce the winner, and you'll be able to see the live drawing from Israel. And if you all your names are being sent over via technology, email.
Very interesting technology.
Could you repeat that for the West Coast? Thank you.
For the West Coast?
And now for Eretz Yisrael.
For Eretz Yisrael, I have to do it slower.
All
Can you
right.
imagine how people are listening to this on the radio at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Now listen, at this time of night, you have to have a heart, you know.
Anyway,
Nice beat, but you can't dance to it. Thank you.
Oh, yes, you can.
All right. Keep going, man. That's it.
everybody thinks it's a nice beat. Very
All right.
good. So now we're going to hear a little bit from Rabbi Eichler, and very soon,
All right.
you
Thanks.
could be the winner.
Be'ez Hashem. Just on a more serious note, I would just like to remind everybody, please, please, please have in mind in your tefillahs and your learning, Rabbi Yosef Shalom Ben Chaya Musha, and that is the name for Rabbi Yosef, the Gadol Hadur. Every second of life is precious, and your tefillahs do mean something. So please remember him in your tefillahs tonight. You should live to 120. Das ist ein Gesundheit stark. You know, a Jewish name is so important. Now, how do we know that? Well, when you think about it, it's one of the things that entitled us, if we can even say entitled, that brought us out of Mitzrayim. A Jewish name. You know, there was a fellow who once broke into somebody's house, and he found that there was a couple in the living room reading, and the thief says to the wife rather, "What's your name?" She says, "Firma Spritzer." Says, "Firma Spritzer? That was my Alta Bubby, my grandmother's name. I'm not taking anything from you." Then he looks at the man and says, "What's your name?" He says, "Marvin. But everybody calls me Firma Spritzer." You know, when push comes to shove, the name that we're called by at home, in the workplace, and after 120 years when we go upstairs, is the name that was given to us at birth by our parents. It says that parents are given a kind of Ruach HaKodesh, a prophetic insight at the time that a child is born. So remember, when you use your Jewish name, wear it proudly. And I think that's one of the things that Hidabroot does, is to make people feel proud about the name that they're called. And Jewish pride is something that we don't take for granted. It's something which is cherished by each of us. And if you've been watching this evening and you're waiting to hear about the raffle, and of course we hope that it'll be one of you or perhaps me, but whoever it is, you have to know that you are helping somebody who will be valuing their Jewish name. Now, there's a talk show host, I don't want to mention his name, who went out of his way to change his name. And he actually has the same last name as a friend of mine who happens to be a pretty well-known doctor who wouldn't think of changing his name. And when he goes out in the world and practices medicine, he makes a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name, by people seeing that he's an observant member of the Jewish community, that he's a highly esteemed, very well-trained, very well-educated doctor. The biggest influence somebody can have is by being who they are, who you are, who we are. The word to influence comes from the word, etymologically speaking, mashbia, to influence. There's a Gemara in Makkas which says that the roof is slanted. And when the roof is slanted, the barrel or the water just rolls off it. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky used to say, that's the biggest thing you can do to makarv somebody, is by virtue of how we are. I started telling you a little bit about my own background. I'll share a story with you. It was during the Yom Kippur War. I had already been producing television commercials and wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael on a vacation. I never dreamed that during the midst of my vacation that the Yom Kippur War would break out. And naturally, all of us who were there wanted to do anything that we could to help in any way that we could. I wound up volunteering with a group that was taking books and nuts, ice cream across the Suez Canal into Egypt. And we were there to boost the morale. And I can tell you, it wasn't a very Hemingway-esque experience. In other words, anybody who's ever been in a wartime situation knows that the smell of death coming from a place where people have been wounded or worse, killed, that there's a stench of war, and it's palpable, and it's something which you feel. When we finished our tour, we came back on a truck, and we were hearing news reports that the war was almost ended. And as I'm looking outside the beautiful Israeli countryside, I see beneath me on the truck, and I'm traveling with two other people. One of those people became a very famous American diplomat. And two or three other people, each of us from different backgrounds. One from South Africa, one from Great Britain, another from Australia, and myself. And as we're on this truck, I look down and I see there's a mound of dirt, and it looks like it's soaked with juice from one of the kibbutzim that we had just passed by. And I thought to myself, the beautiful land of Israel, the fruits of the trees. We just celebrated Tu B'Shvat today, as you know, and how precious are the fruits of the trees of Eretz Yisrael. So I thought this was from the fruit, from one of the trees there. And I bent down and I took some of the dirt in my hand and began to let the dirt sift through it. And then suddenly I realized there was something remotely familiar about the way the red moisture felt, and I realized that it wasn't fruit juice at all. But as the Israeli next to me said, and he looked at me and he said, "Zedam, it's blood." Now, what did that mean? I mean, were there turkeys that they had slaughtered? Were there chickens? What was going on here? The driver informed us that this was a burial truck, and that just a few minutes before we had gotten on the truck, they had taken the bodies of young Israeli soldiers that had been killed in one of the last battles of the Yom Kippur War. And each of us, young men at the time, simultaneously burst out into a paroxysm of tears. It was something that you couldn't explain. We just felt at the moment that we'd experienced the death of soldiers that had been alive just a short time ago, who now were not going home to their own families. Now, why am I telling you this? Because when I came back to the United States